3 spine-chilling night shift horror stories, sinister secrets revealed from the haunted shadows. Amy shivered as the clock struck midnight. The grocery store loomed around her like a cavern, its fluorescent lights flickering ominously. Shadows danced in the corners, and the hum of refrigeration units felt like a low growl, reminding her she was very much alone. Just 2 years after her divorce, she begrudgingly accepted that she was the only adult in this suffocating silence. She needed the extra income to provide for Lily and Max, but this mundane backdrop was becoming a living nightmare. On her 3rd night, she heard it, a whisper. It was soft, almost a breeze, but it wrapped around her like icy fingers. Amy. She froze, pulse racing, scanning the aisles. The faint scent of stale coffee mingled with something metallic, an odor that prickled the back of her throat. She brushed it off as exhaustion, but when the whispers came again, her heart thudded louder, despair tightening its grip. Behind her, a shadow flickered. Was that just a trick of the light? By her 5th night, the town's whispers found their way to her ears. A former employee had vanished without a trace. The locals murmured about hauntings, nighttime apparitions. The grocery store stood as a monument to their fears, and looming in its shadows was a story Amy didn't want to know. Each morning, Lily and Max greeted her with innocent smiles, their drawings sprawled out on the living room floor, crayon renditions of a nice man who kept them company while she worked. Panic lodged in her throat as the truth clawed at her. Could they really see something she couldn't? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the storm rolled in on her 7th night, anxiety twisted in Amy's gut. Each thunderclap felt like a warning. The flickering lights became unpredictable, casting longer shadows that seemed to breathe. And then she saw him, a figure slinking out from an aisle, shadows clinging to his frame, eyes hollow and black. It was Tom, her friendly neighbor. He'd always seemed harmless, a perpetual smile and a helpful hand. But now that smile felt grotesque, twisted. His gaze pierced her, empty yet demanding. "Why are you working so late, Amy?" he crooned. The words slid from his lips like venom. Terror gripped her heart. She wanted to scream, to run, but her feet felt glued to the linoleum.
As he took a slow step closer, a laugh, high, chilling, echoed in her ears, sending a jolt of fear down her spine. She could feel heat rising like a wave, but beneath, a cold chill settled deep within. The man she thought she knew was something else, a monster lurking in their small town. Could she protect her children from the shadow that loomed near, or was the innocence of her home now tainted by darkness? Just as panic surged and she turned to flee, a cold hand whispered her name from the aisles, the reality of the suburban nightmare closing in, trust shattered, and horror clawing through the facade of safety she tried so hard to maintain. What awaited her now in that cursed store? Amy blinked hard, heart pounding wildly in her chest. The world around her warped. Tom's silhouette grew larger as he stepped closer, the fluorescent lights overhead humming louder, buzzing like angry wasps. She felt paralyzed, every instinct screaming at her to move, to escape the malevolent energy surrounding him. "What do you want?" Her voice broke, the plea mingling with fear as she strained to keep her composure. The man she knew was pulled apart like a threadbare sock, and what emerged was something dark. He didn't answer, but stared, his smile stretching unnaturally, revealing teeth that looked too sharp, fangs almost glistening in the harsh light. Just as he reached out, a crash echoed from the back of the store, jolting her from her trance. Shelves rattled as if the world outside had broken in. In a flash, Amy turned to run. As she dashed down the aisle, her breath came in frantic gasps. The air felt thick, each inhale tasting of fear and metallic dust, as if the walls themselves were closing in, urging her to stay. She raced towards the back where the noise had come from, a mystery box of shadows that promised answers or horrors. She didn't know if it was a mistake or the only choice. Behind her, Tom's laugh slithered through the air, repeating her name like a haunting melody. "Amy, come back. I just want to play." Sweat trickled down her spine as she skidded to a stop. A flicker of light from the back room caught her eye, a soft glow that felt inviting yet ominous. Approaching cautiously, she pushed the door open and was met with a surreal sight, a flickering computer screen with old footage rolling. It showed the grocery store from years ago, and there among the patrons stood her kids, giggling by the candy aisle with a shadowy figure lurking behind them. A chill ripped through her, the nice man from their drawings. It was the same figure, only now it seemed to warp with every frame. shoulders hunched, limbs elongated, eyes like dark pits, feeding off the joy. They were trapped in a loop, and she could feel the weight of their happiness drag her down into despair. "Mommy," a voice broke through the haze. Lily and Max appeared in the doorway, faces alight with innocent glee, oblivious to the darkness thickening around them.
Amy's heart leaped, but was quickly ensnared in dread. "Stay back! Don't come any closer!" The children paused, confusion washing over their features. "But the nice man wants to play with us." They stood firm, as if held by invisible strings. The shadows pulsed, ready to swallow everything whole, and Amy rushed forward, adrenaline surging. "No, you don't understand!" But as she stretched her arms towards them, the room warped again, the joyful laughter turning chaotic, echoing in a warped pitch. A blackness crept from the corners, creeping towards her, wrapping around her like a snake. Tom's voice swirled into the space, taunting her. "They belong with me, Amy. They see the truth." She spun, eyes wide, hot tears stinging her cheeks. Things were unraveling, slipping through her fingers like sand. With one final desperate scream, she lunged towards her kids, ready to tear them away from whatever sinister fate awaited. The world tilted, reality shattered, and just as she reached for them, everything went dark. The only sound left was Tom's mocking laughter, sending ripples of dread through the void. What had she just stumbled into, and were her children still there, waiting for her, or trapped in the depths of the shadows? Amy gasped, cold air rushing into her lungs like icy daggers. She blinked, struggling to remember where she was. For a moment, there was nothing but darkness, and then light flickered back to life around her. She was sprawled on the cold floor of the back room. Panic clawed at her throat. The screen flickered above her, showing static before the old footage resumed. Laughter bounced off the walls, though it sounded wrong, twisted. What was happening to her kids? "Lily! Max!" Her voice cracked, desperate as she scrambled to her feet. Ignoring the quaking dread beneath her skin, she rushed towards the grainy images. The shadow lingered behind her children, its form shifting, longer, broader, like a knife slicing through light. They laughed, reaching for it. "Mommy, look!" They pointed, joy radiating from their innocent eyes. The sound of their giggles was jarring, like mocking bells chiming in a sinister choir. "No! Get away from it!" Amy shouted, but the sound swallowed her words. She stumbled back, glancing around the room, searching for a way out. The walls closed in, crawling with shadows that whispered like secrets, each murmur a reminder of the horror that lurked beyond sight. As she turned, a chill passed through her heart when she caught a glimpse of Tom, the twisted version of him, watching from the doorway with a predatory glint in his eyes. "You can't save them, Amy. They're happier here, in this world of play." Her mind raced. "No! No! They're my children!" She lunged towards Tom, but he vanished, leaving behind only a whisper. "Join them." She stumbled forward, her feet carrying her back toward the flickering screen. As she moved, the shadows writhed, their darkness pulling at her ankles like hands dragging her down. "Mom!" The voices of Lily and Max wove through the air, sweet but tainted with desperation. "We're waiting for you!" "No!" The terror hit her like a wave, crashing into her resolve. "I need to save you!" But every step felt heavier, like running through mud. The room seemed alive, a living organism feeding off her fear, pulsing with a sinister energy that clawed at her mind. The laughter continued, the sound dizzying, seeming to come from everywhere at once, mocking her helplessness. Her heart thundered, drowning out logical thoughts as she glanced at the screen. The shadow now draped over her children, malice swirling in its embrace. They giggled, unaware, gleeful, as if under a spell she could not break. She felt the weight of despair pressing down. Could she really not save them? Suddenly, she felt a pull, an invisible tether luring her closer to the screen, the darkness beyond it beckoning her in a way she could barely comprehend. Images flashed by, horrific snapshots of past victims, their faces twisted in agony. They came and stayed forever, echoed through her mind, each word biting into her soul. "I won't let you take them," she screamed, fighting against the tether. But the darkness surged, and behind her she could hear whispers, ominous, sinister. "Come play with us. It's so much fun." With a fleeting moment of clarity, Amy remembered the story she had told her children, of love and bravery. They deserved more than this terrifying fate. She concentrated hard on their faces, wrapping her thoughts around them like a lifeline. "Lily! Max!" she cried, desperation fueling her voice. "I love you! Follow my voice!" The laughter fell silent, the shadows pausing, as if the world itself held its breath.
She felt a stirring, a shift in the atmosphere as the echoes of innocence began to shatter the darkness surrounding them. And then a flicker of movement caught her eye. A glimmer of color appeared on the screen, vibrant and full of light. "Mommy!" The voices grew clearer, battling back the shadow's grip. But that was when she sensed it, the unmistakable flicker of Tom's presence, looming, ready to strike. "Amy," he hissed, slithering forward through the darkness. "Come and play." Her heart raced, the shadows beckoned. The choice loomed before her, to plunge back into the abyss or to save her children. Outside, a low growl echoed, hungry. "Which will you choose, Amy?" Before she could answer, the walls surged one last time, and the screen shattered, scattering the light into the dark corners of the room. The ground shook beneath her, and in that moment, Amy knew her true battle was just beginning. What was hidden in that enveloping darkness, and would she have the strength to face the horrors it concealed? The screen exploded into fragments, each shard reflecting Amy's wide eyes. For a heartbeat, the room froze. She could almost hear the deafening silence, a calm before the storm.
Then shadows poured forth, dark tendrils reaching for her, eager to draw her into their cold embrace. Panic surged, urging her to move. She dashed toward the door, her breath hitching as she pushed against the impenetrable darkness. The hallway stretched before her, a corridor of despair, lit by flickering fluorescent lights that buzzed ominously overhead. Each step echoed through the emptiness, a stark reminder that she was utterly alone. Were her children behind her? Their laughter haunted her thoughts, twined with her desperation. "Lily! Max!" she cried, her voice cracking with fear. "I'm coming!" The shadows flickered, as if mocking her. She could feel their presence, threatening and omnipresent. Glancing back, she saw the dark silhouette of Tom, a figure twisted and grotesque, standing at the shattered screen. His mouth twisted into a cruel grin. It seemed to grow wider, devouring the room's light, that fanged smile promising eternal anguish. "Don't turn around, Amy. You'll never leave," he called out, his voice slithering into her mind like oil. She could feel his gaze piercing her back, the predatory hunger emanating from him. "No," she whispered, forcing herself to look away and sprint down the hallway. As she ran, the walls seemed to pulse, closing in on her. The mural of painted children on the walls twisted, their faces morphing into expressions of agony, their innocent eyes crying tears of blood. Every lamp flickered as she raced past, the flickering lights casting disorienting shadows that danced along the walls. Something, a feeling, a presence, followed her, an encroaching darkness that made her skin crawl. She could hear it, a whisper snaking through the air like a serpent, the whispers growing louder, agonizing. "Come, play with us." "Get away," she screamed, the words tearing from her throat as she stumbled down the stairs, desperate for freedom. Abruptly, Amy found herself in a dimly lit basement, filled with the scent of mildew and decay. Old toys lay strewn about, forgotten relics of childhood innocence. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest as a chilling thought hit her. Was this the playground he spoke of? Lily, Max. The darkness thickened, curling around her ankles like suffocating vines. She could see a faint light flickering in the distance, calling to her like a lighthouse through a storm. She bolted toward it, the sounds of maniacal laughter echoing behind her, chaos erupting in her wake. Suddenly, the ground beneath her trembled, and she lost her balance, crashing to the floor. The light flickered out, leaving her engulfed in shadows, tendrils wrapping her arms, pulling her deep into the abyss. "Mommy!" A haunting voice drifted through the void, echoing with panic that mirrored her own. It was Lily. "No, I won't let go." Amy fought against the grip of the shadows, her heart racing. She could almost feel her children's presence, close enough to touch, yet so agonizingly far away.
With a fierce cry, she tore through the darkness, harnessing every ounce of love she had for her children. "Lily! Max! I'm here! I love you!" The shadows recoiled slightly, as if her determination burned them. For a moment, the silence dropped like a heavy curtain. Then came the sound, a deep, ominous growl, swirling through the air like smoke.
Amy. Tom's voice slithered closer, more insistent. Join us. It's time to play. She shivered, fighting the creeping fear that threatened to consume her. If only she could reach them, she could break this curse. In that moment of clarity, a thought flashed through her mind. What if the love she felt was enough to dispel the darkness? But as the echo of her heart raced, she felt the shadows rally, preparing for their final strike. Would she have the strength to grapple with the darkness, or become a casualty of the very nightmare she sought to escape? The darkness hissed for her, and Amy realized her biggest nightmare might not be the shadows at all, but what was hidden just beyond them. The shadows writhed and twisted, almost alive, pulling Amy deeper into their grip, suffocating her resolve. Her heart raced as she fought to free herself, each pulse echoing in her ears like a distant drum signaling her impending doom. She could almost see the outline of her children, tiny shapes dimly lit against a backdrop of swirling black. "Mommy!" The voice echoed again, a desperate call that shattered her focus, and yet so far away. "Lily! Max!" she screamed, each syllable dripping with panic. A fleeting thought crossed her mind. What if those weren't her children at all? What if those voices belonged to something darker, more sinister? Her instincts screamed for her to run, but the oppressive darkness pressed down on her, wrapping around her throat, choking her words. She stumbled back, her hands fumbling against the cold, damp floor, as a guttural chuckle resonated from the depths of the shadows. It was a laugh she knew all too well. "Tom!" "Don't be afraid, Amy. We're just playing hide and seek," he crooned, his voice teasing and eerily calm. "You always were terrible at the game." The shadows danced around her, fluttering like moths drawn to a flame. A chilling certainty washed over her. This was where the children had disappeared. This was his playground, the dark sanctuary where twisted games were played. She clawed at the floor, half dragging, half crawling toward the flickering glimmer in the distance, the only source of hope left. The shadows surged forward, a wicked vortex swirling around her limbs, dragging against her skin like 1,000 icy fingers. "Playtime is fun, Mommy. You'll see." With a fierce determination she didn't know she had, Amy pushed against the weight of despair bearing down on her. "Get away from me!" she shouted, shoving her fear aside. This was not just about her anymore. It was about the children, her love shining brighter than the void. "Lily! Max!"
She called again, using every ounce of strength to lift her voice above the cacophony that threatened to smother her. "I am coming!" Suddenly, a flash of light erupted, illuminating her surroundings. It was dazzling, temporarily blinding. The shadows hissed and withdrew, but not without a fight. They surged back with ferocity, desperate to keep her within their grasp. In her moment of clarity, Amy saw them. 2 small figures huddled in the darkness. Lily and Max were so close, yet surrounded by an impenetrable fog of despair. She could see their pale faces. They were terrified, their eyes wide, reflecting all the horrors they endured in the shadows. "Amy!" Lily cried, her voice faltering. "Help! We're scared!" "Hold on!" Amy pushed herself up, using the flickering light as a beacon. "I'm coming! Just a little longer!" The light flickered again, not fading, but struggling, pulsing as if sensing her determination. With every inch she gained, the dark clung tighter, tormenting her with whispers of hopelessness. "Amy, better to join us now. Why resist?" Tom's sinister murmur wrapped around her mind like barbed wire, sharp and penetrating. But she pushed on, her love a fiery shield against the biting chill of despair. Fighting back the storm of panic, she moved with newfound resolve, determined to reach her children before the darkness swallowed them whole. In one final effort, she lunged forward, arms outstretched to grasp them. The light surged, illuminating the path toward her children. "Mommy!" They reached for her, their little hands trembling, but the shadows screamed, streaking forward as if to reclaim what she was trying to rescue. Could her love truly break the chains of darkness? Just as her fingers brushed against Lily's outstretched hand, the shadows whirled violently, swirling around them like a tempest. The basement shook, echoing with the cacophony of their screams, mixed with Tom's jubilant laughter. "What have you done, Amy?" His voice reverberated through the chaos, dripping with malice. Then everything erupted into blinding light, and for a moment Amy felt a familiar warmth enveloping her. But was it salvation, or merely a trick of the darkness? The blaring laughter twisted into agonizing wails, drowning in the shifting maelstrom.
The ground trembled beneath her feet as the light dimmed, casting her world into twilight once more. She had a choice to make. Would she follow the love that illuminated her heart, or succumb to the darkness that waited, hungry for despair? As shadows closed in, Amy realized she may have unleashed something even more terrifying than Tom, something that thrived on the very essence of fear. The light burst around them, but the warmth faded too quickly, leaving Amy cold and trembling. She was stretched thin, her heart pounding like a drum echoing in the depths of a dark abyss. The shadows slithered, twisting around her ankles as if trying to drag her down into their suffocating embrace. "Mommy!"
Max. Max's voice was a little more than a whisper, barely audible above the tempest of darkness. Suddenly, the light sparked again, flickering like a candle nearing its end. It illuminated the faces of her children, pale and wide-eyed, but the shadows bathed them in a sickly hue of dread. Amy's breath hitched, fear clawed at her throat. What if she failed? What if they were lost forever? "Don't let go!" she shouted, a desperate plea laced in her tone. She lunged forward, her fingers brushing against the cold, clammy air, searching for the warmth of their little hands. But just before she could reach them, Tom's laughter echoed, cruel and mocking, wrapping around her like a serpent. "They're not yours anymore, Amy. Not in this place. You wanted them? Then come and get them." The shadows unleashed their fury, lashing like whips against her skin, each strike igniting a fresh wave of panic. Amy fought against the overwhelming tide, each movement sending pain flashing through her body, but it was nothing compared to the agony she felt watching her kids trapped, suffocated by the pitch-black terror that had become their prison. "Lily! Max! Please, hold on!" She stretched out her hand, willing her heart to breach the space that divided them, ignoring the chaos around her. There was a flicker. Hope? The children moved, but it wasn't toward her. They stepped back, confusion painting their faces, as if the shadows were pulling them into a cosmic game of tug-of-war. "Mommy, where are you?" Lily cried, her voice shaking. The shadows breathed a shudder of satisfaction, sensing their confusion, a feast for their terror. An unseen force swirled in the air, whispering promises of despair. "You could join them, Amy. Just give in." Tom's voice enveloped her, seductive and sinister, pulling at her dark thoughts. Fire surged in her chest. "No, I refuse!" She found strength, a flicker of her love for her children igniting as she summoned every ounce of will. She charged, fighting through the pain, the shadows trying to chain her down. With a guttural scream, she tore through the encroaching darkness, grasping at her children's hands. "Mommy!" Lily's voice broke through the cacophony, the shadows recoiling as if scalded. For the first time she felt warmth, their fingers, slick and fragile, but clinging fervently. But then a shriek pierced the air as the shadows went into a frenzy, whipping through the space like tormented souls. "You can't keep them!" they roared, their voices merging into a crescendo of wails and jeers that shook the foundation of the basement. Each scream echoed in Amy's ears, slashing deep. She felt their icy tendrils grip her heart, feeding off her fear. She couldn't let the terror beat her. With a final burst of strength, Amy yanked her children towards her, pulling them close as the shadows converged. The tempest swirled furiously around them, but she held on tight, eyes blazing with determination. "I won't let you take them."
The shadows pulled back, a pulse of darkness that loomed, menacing and volatile. Amy could feel the walls closing in, choking the light in this nightmare space. And just as quickly as it began, the fluorescent spark flickered out. The cold enveloped them once more, hearts racing in the dark. Faced with overwhelming dread, the trio found themselves wandering deeper into the blackness, clutching each other, fighting against the gnawing doubt. "It's not over, Amy," an echoing voice whispered. An unsettling realization settled into her gut. What if Tom wasn't the source? What if the true horror lay deeper? And as they emerged from the crushing darkness, something stirred, watching, waiting. Had she just unleashed the real nightmare, one more potent than Tom's twisted game? Amy clutched her children tighter, feeling the fragile warmth of their bodies against the freezing fear that wrapped around them. They were surrounded by an oppressive darkness, and despite having found each other, the sense of safety slipped through her fingers like sand. The air felt alive, pulsating with malevolence, and she heard whispers swirling around them, sinister and full of dread. "We need to move," she urged, her voice more a trembling breath than a command. But where could they go? The shadows had thickened, clinging to the walls like a shroud, swallowing the faint echoes of their footsteps. Lily was shaking, her small form vibrating with fear. "Mommy, I don't like it here," she whimpered, and Amy fought to suppress her own rising panic. "I know, sweetheart. Just hold on to me," she said, trying to infuse her words with strength she didn't feel. Max's grip tightened on her other hand, his breath quickening. What's that?" he stammered, his eyes wide with fright as he pointed into the deeper darkness ahead. At first she saw nothing, just the void stretching into infinity, but then something shifted, a darker shadow, moving independently of the rest, slinking toward them like a predator. It seemed to breathe, each undulation exuding a malice that sent a chill crawling down Amy's spine. "Stay close," she commanded, her resolve hardening. The children huddled against her, eyes fixed on the menace creeping closer. She took a step back, instincts screaming at her to flee, but the shadows behind them pulsed in response, hurting them forward. The faint mocking laughter surged again, echoing off unseen walls. Tom's voice slipped through the darkness, thick with malice. "Step deeper into the abyss, Amy. Embrace your true self. So much easier than fighting. Isn't that right, kids?" "No," she screamed, undeterred. "You're not real." But the shadow brushed against her leg, ice cold, real enough to send a jolt of terror through her. The choking weight of fear settled like a stone in her stomach. The darkness laughed, a sickly sound that reverberated through her bones. A flash, light shot through the complete absence of everything.
It illuminated twisted, grotesque shapes writhing between them. The light flickered, nearly fading away before revealing glimpses of what looked like faces, frozen in agony, mouths gaping in eternal screams, their eyes black as coal. "Mommy, please, I want to go home," Max cried, and Amy's heart shattered. They couldn't be trapped here, not like this. With a surge of defiance, she grabbed both their hands tightly. "We're going to find a way out, together." But just as she turned, the shadows writhed violently, intertwining with the faint light, snatching at her hair, her clothes, trying to tear them apart. The children screamed, their terror a knife twisting in her lungs. "No, no!" she shouted, swinging her arms in desperation as she tried to keep them close. Suddenly, the darkness coiled tightly around her, a suffocating grip that threatened to crush her will. She felt the shadows pulling her down, an unrelenting maw of despair. But amongst the chaos, she saw it, a single point of light deep within the gloom, beckoning. "Over there!" Amy shouted, pointing. "That way!" But just as she turned, the shadows roared with fury, a cacophony of anguished cries enveloping them. And then there it was, a chilling whisper in her ear, intimate and sinister. "There's no escape, Amy. You've unleashed something far worse than me." With a heart-pounding jolt, she realized Tom's malevolence was just a layer over something deeper and far more ancient. What had she awakened in the dark? And before it all vanished again, the shadows lunged forward, swallowing the light whole. The next moment, Amy clawed at the void, grasping, reaching, fighting to see again, and in that pitch blackness, the whispers grew louder, wrapping around her doubts, urging her towards surrender. What awaited them beyond this primordial abyss? The crushing darkness pressed down on Amy like a weight, squeezing the air from her lungs. She could feel the chill wrapping around her, tightening its grip, as if the very shadows were hungry for her fear. Each whisper echoed, curling around her mind, unshackling old fears and fueling new ones. "Mommy," Lily's voice trembled, fragile as glass. "I don't want to play anymore." Amy swallowed hard, forcing her mind to focus. "It's okay, baby. Just stick close." The point of light flickered, pulsing like a heartbeat, drawing her in, but with every step forward, the shadows clotted them, whispering sinister truths she couldn't bear to hear. It felt alive, an entity with malice wrapped tight around every syllable. "You should give in, Amy. Just let go." Sickened by the incessant taunts, Amy pressed on. The light shimmered ahead, fragile but promising. "We can make it," she urged, her voice breaking free of despair. Each word wrested from the jaws of the void. "Mommy," Max cried, his panic spilling over as she tugged on her arm. Amy hesitated, dread pooling in her stomach.
She turned, heart thundering against her ribs. The shadows had thickened, forming a solid wall of darkness, shimmering and writhing like a massive beast. And within it, a shape, a towering silhouette, lurking just out of reach. "Keep moving!" she shouted, desperation creeping into her tone. The clarity of her resolve was fading like the waning light, swallowed by an overwhelming tide of fear.
She yanked both of them forward, the flickering light still in sight. "Don't look back," she implored, pushing her fear aside. But it wasn't her own terror that gripped her. It was the suffocating dread that lay heavy upon her children. They were losing hope, and in this darkness, even the bravest hearts withered. A laugh resonated against the walls of their prison, a sound that seemed to curl and coil around them like a noose. "You think you can outrun it? You're in my domain now, Amy." The shadows surged, slipping through her fingers. They were rising, sensing her wavering strength. The ground beneath her feet trembled, as if a deep rumble of anger stirred within the abyss. "Mommy!" Lily screamed, her voice a piercing cry that shattered the void. "I can't breathe!" Suddenly, the point of light flickered violently, casting twisted shapes upon the walls. Faces like those she had seen before, their expressions contorted in agonized disbelief. The sight unnerved her, sending her heart racing. They weren't just shadows, they were souls, trapped forever in this nightmare. "Keep moving," she urged again, but doubt crept into her veins like ice. How could she protect them? How could they possibly escape this hell? Max stumbled, tripping over an unseen root. Amy barely caught him, but as she pulled him up, the darkness shifted around them, coiling tighter still. "Going somewhere," the voice taunted, deeper now, resonating with an ancient hunger. "Don't listen," she shouted, determination flaring. "We're stronger together." But Max's face was pale and clammy, his eyes wide with sheer terror. "Mommy," he whispered, "what if it gets us?" With her heart splintering, Amy pushed onward, gripping their hands hard enough to leave marks. And just as they approached the light, the ground beneath her feet gave way, plunging them into an unseen chasm. She flailed in the dark, a free fall of panic consuming her. "Hold on, I won't let go." Just as they were engulfed in complete darkness, she felt a pulse of warmth, a fleeting touch of familiarity. It was like a beacon, promising safety, but the screams of the souls echoed in her ears, begging for release. "Mommy, please," Max cried, arms flailing. And then, silence. In that crushing darkness, where time felt suspended, Amy's mind spun wild, a mix of dread and desperation. What awaited them in this infinite abyss? Would they embrace fear, or could they find light once again? The shadows themselves seemed to lure her deeper, whispering the horrifying truth. The only way out might mean giving in to the darkness.
She turned quickly, but saw only swirling darkness. "What was that?" she gasped. "Mommy, it hurts!" Max cried, clutching his arm, where dark tendrils had seeped through the fabric of his shirt, leaving behind a charred mark. "No, please no!" The laughter echoed again, wrapping around them like chains. "What if you can't take them with you?" it hissed. "What if they're the ones that you must leave behind?" "No, I won't leave them!" Amy screamed, her heart racing, but uncertainty seeped in, gnawing at her resolve like a starving animal. Could she really save them all? As the point of light pulsed stronger, she felt its warmth encroaching on the suffocating chill, but the shadows pressed closer, their maelstrom relentless. In that moment, with dread crushing her spirit, Amy faced an impossible choice. Would pursuing the light mean forsaking her children? What if the only way to survive was to sacrifice everything she held dear? Could love bloom in the heart of darkness, or does it only nourish the void? The light flickered, illuminating Amy's path, but with every weak pulse, shadows surged closer, eager to snuff out the hope she clung to. "We have to go, now," she urged, pulling both kids along despite the dread that twisted in her belly. "Mommy, I can't," Max stumbled again, eyes wide with panic. "Stay with me," Amy's heart pounded as she glanced back. The darkness seemed alive, writhing, filled with malicious laughter that echoed through the void. They had to escape this nightmare, but each step felt heavier, every breath rasping like nails on chalk. "Look," Lily pointed ahead, where the faint glow intensified. "The light is getting bigger." "Yes, we can make it." They pressed onward, the warmth of the light beckoning them like a promise. But the shadows surged around them, dark fingers curling at their heels. "Where do you think you're going?" Tom's voice slithered through the dark, a venomous whisper that made Amy shudder. "Get away from us," Amy barked, holding her children closer, as images of lost souls twisted, contorting in agony around them. But she couldn't let fear drown her. Emerging from this darkness depended on her strength. "Mommy, I feel so cold," Max whimpered, clinging tighter. "Hold on, just keep moving," Amy cried out, squeezing their hands until her knuckles turned white.
The ominous presence loomed behind them, shadows pressing against her resolve. "You can't escape what you've awakened," it hissed, a cacophony of lost voices echoing in her mind. "They belong to the dark now." "No," Amy screamed, each denial fueled by fierce love. "I will not lose them." The light pulsed brighter, illuminating a path before her, a beacon of hope amid despair. "We're almost there," she urged, desperate energy pouring from her core as she urged them on despite the shadows that clawed at them relentlessly. Suddenly, she spotted a hint of color, a door slightly ajar at the end of the passageway. "That's our way out."
As they dashed toward it, pain shot through her, a cold tendril snaking around her leg, trying to drag her down. Amy fought it, focusing only on the door ahead. "Don't look back! Don't stop! We are stronger than this!" The shadows hissed, the weight of their fear pushing harder. "Give in!" they howled, wrapping around her throat, squeezing tight. "You'll never escape!" With a surge of fervor, Amy tore free, summoning every ounce of will. The love for her children became a burning fire in her heart, lighting her way through the shadow. She propelled herself toward the beckoning door, praying for safety and deliverance. "I love you, Lily. I love you, Max. Keep going." Finally, they reached the door, Amy flinging it open, a gush of vibrant air greeting them. Bright light spilled into the darkness, momentarily blinding her as she swept her children through, the last remnants of shadow grasping at her heels. As they crossed the threshold of the door, Amy felt an explosion of warmth envelop them. She shielded her kids in her arms, the shadows screaming in agony, their grip evaporating like fog in the morning sun. They tumbled into the new world, a quiet park bathed in daylight, grass green and soft beneath their feet, surrounded by the summer sounds of chirping birds and rustling trees. The oppressive weight of despair lifted, replaced by a sense of immense relief. "Mommy, we're okay," Lily squealed, throwing her arms around Amy. Max followed, clinging tightly. Amy's breath hitched, tears streaming down her cheeks as sunlight bathed them in warmth. "Yes, my loves, we're safe." She looked around at the vibrant beauty of the world. The shadows were behind that door, nothing but a terrifying memory now. But in the recesses of her mind, remnants of what lay trapped in darkness lingered. She would have to confront those fears anew, but she felt emboldened, stronger than she had ever been. "I'll always protect you," she whispered. "No more shadows, no more games." As they walked away, hand in hand beneath the sun's embrace, Amy glanced back one last time at the door. It stood ajar, a silent reminder of the battle fought, the love that prevailed. They had emerged victorious, but she had learned something vital. Darkness can be tenacious, but love burns brighter than any shadow, and it would always guide her home. From that day onward, Amy vowed not just to protect her children, but to share their story, revealing the truth about bravery against the shadows. They would face life together, a family woven by love, forever free from the darkness that once pursued them. As they strolled into a bright future, she took in the laughter of her children, feeling an undying spark of hope surging within. This was their time to shine, and she could face any darkness that dared cross their path. Now is your chance to be part of the story. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive tales of adventure and horror.
Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and support the channel. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this spine-chilling conclusion. Let your voice be heard. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this breathtaking finale. True fans like you make all the difference.